people hear me talking about?
Ed, I still have no audio. That was from 10 seconds ago. What's the scene, Tom? What's going on?
It should be working fine.
It should be working fine is what Tom is saying.
It would be terribly frustrating if everyone watching just had their sound right down.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Right.
Not my end. Ed's still not getting anything. I'm going to continue to text Matthew, just on the off chance. I also might check my Twitter, actually. This, incredibly, is the best filling I've ever done.
Right, I'm going to write a message that will be visible on the screen.
Okay, all right. There is zero sound for everyone. Thumbs up. That's from No Context Vibes. Okay. Robin Allender. There's no sound. Okay. We'd all... Okay, Ed Gamble's texting me again. I'm going to try re-entering.
Tom, you haven't somehow muted this, have you?
Is there any way that I could be individually responsible?
Oh, what became of the likely lads? What became of the dreams we had? Oh, what became of forever? Oh, what became of forever? We'll never know.
My name is Ivo Graham. I have been 1/3 of the silent faces you have watched becoming increasingly disconsolate over the last half hour. I'm sporting, it's the first major public appearance of a work-in-progress beard, which I'd hoped to be a subplot of the exercise, but due to the lack of audio, was pretty much the only thing I was getting texted about other than the complaints. At the end of 2013, I applied for the then vacant Sunday morning slot on XFM. I was unsuccessful, but I would like to welcome now the two men who did succeed, and the story since has very much told itself. I've enjoyed a decade of fandom masquerading as friendship with these men, and it's absolute pleasure, or it was an absolute pleasure, to be hosting this very ambitious video conferencing event with them tonight. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your really quite already tested patience, and prepare to have some more tested as I welcome to their own homes, Elis James and John Robbins. Hello, Elis and John.
Hello.
Hey, Ivo, mate.
Right.
Thank you for filling so heroically, Ivo. It's enormously appreciated.
Well, that's very kind
for
of you.
27 minutes.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, I did what I could. I held up some handwritten notes. I wore a face of panic, which has already been screen grabbed on several WhatsApp groups. I watched John crack into his cans while magnificently resisting my own, although I will now enjoy an easy living pail of relief. Listen, this is the first ever sort of video comedy event I've ever really been involved in. So
hang on. I forgot to put my jacket on.
Yes.
Will they have seen Freddie there?
I suspect they probably will have seen that on several
bloody ages.
With the mask, John, it just looks like you have a marionette of Freddie in your kitchen hanging at all times.
It did
look marionettes of yourself.
There we go.
Yeah, much better.
Great. So do you want to talk us through your respective outfits while I look at a few messages just to check whether we are still very much in?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm wearing the suit that I bought for Josh Widdicombe's wedding.
Me too.
In September. Unfortunately, because of lockdown snacks, I can no longer. It's very difficult for me to do the. I've put it's very, very tight now to the extent that it's almost uncomfortable. To the extent that I've also, I don't know if you can see this. I'm wearing
Oh, no.
I'm wearing sort of Swansea shorts
Okay.
because the trousers are a no-go zone, unfortunately. But it's too hot for me to be wearing a suit indoors. But I made a promise myself that I'd take this event seriously. And
We all promised
situation.
ourselves we'd take this event seriously.
Yeah,
and I hope that's really come across.
This is the situation we're in.
I've come dressed as a... Oh, shit! The bed!
Oh, no. If his comedy award splits in half, it will only be a truer representation.
Oh, mate, I dropped the nom and the main. Somewhere in Australia, Gadsby just went, whoa!
Oh.
So what are you holding there, John?
I'm holding a doll a listener to the Radio X show knitted of me, and I've come dressed as my own doll. So I don't know, if I stick pins in this doll, maybe I'll feel pain. But I'm not going to do that because I like the doll.
I've got my doll there. That doll has looked the same for about 4 years, whereas I have aged terribly. So I can only imagine there's some sort of Dorian Gray stuff afoot.
Just going to pop that back up there.
Well done, John. Yes.
Phew. Okay, there we go.
We're doing it. We're very much doing it. It's happening. It's live.
Who are you talking to, Ivo?
Never you mind, John. I'm just providing reassurance to all and sundry that we are broadcasting our event. Now, listen. What should we start on some of the features that I prepared?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's absolutely excellent. We'll start off with a bit of light lockdown chat. Now, I've texted your respective fiancés about how their experience of you during lockdown is. Who should we kick off with?
Let's do me first. I'm quite
maybe someone none of us know.
Well, it's pretty light content, John.
Okay.
I mean, yours is that you're very affable and that you win most of the board games you play. So I don't think you've got a huge amount to fear from this section.
Interesting use of the word "most" there.
I think actually I may have embellished that. I think it's actually all. Yep. Always is the word that's come in. A reference to always winning board games and a wispy handlebar moustache, which makes him look like a zoo wrangler in Tiger King. But that's gone, hasn't it?
Yes, yeah, that went as soon as my fiance saw it.
So my own facial hair got some terrible reviews during a family house party earlier today, but has received some nice and not clearly ironic feedback thus far on this. But it has reached the stage where rather than being sort of just thrillingly unshaven, it's quite itchy and it keeps catching up. My daughter keeps sort of pulling on it, and I'm going to have to investigate things like beard oil.
You need to work through the itch. It will only itch for a brief period and then it will never itch again.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And that's coming from someone who grew a distressingly terrible beard about 2 years ago. You're at that stage. Don't worry about it.
What did Izzy say about Elis?
She said she offered a 4-point plan. A few bad habits I've discovered. This again, it's a fairly light start. Filling a glass of orange squash to half full when I ask him to make me one, yet insisting it's 2/3 full. Why not full?
What an odd version of the pessimist-optimist fable.
Yes.
Is the glass 2/3 full or half full? What does that say about Elis James?
What does it say? And to reiterate your fiance's question, why not full?
It's actually a genetic thing. My mother does it. Her mother before her did it.
He comes from a long line of miserly landlords.
Yeah. All of my foremothers have been quite stingy when it came to squash.
Well, that won't be the final reference to Nesta James over the course of this evening.
Oh, okay.
And then we've got your constant Marky Smith from the Fall impressions, which I think have already been the subject of your various lockdown broadcasts. And then sighing loudly whenever I start talking about mine or my friends' emotions or relationships. Then saying that, do you remember the excuse, Elis?
Yeah, the excuse is genuine. The excuse is an actual syndrome. I often breathe just as he starts to talk about her or her friend's emotions, and then a big sigh comes out, and it looks like a value judgment on the
Whereas actually you're
conversation.
just replenishing oxygen.
Absolutely, which I need to do to live. So yeah,
Syndrome, is it?
Pardon?
It's a syndrome.
It's a syndrome. Yeah. My a friend of mine from Wales does it as well.
Oh, great. Well, that's still all the signs.
Yeah, my friend Katie also often forgets to breathe, and then she'll go.
And
she's just replenishing oxygen.
I forget to listen whenever I'm within 75 yards of a pub. So
yes,
and that's a syndrome as well. I will often just blank out anything that I'm being told until I've passed the 75 yards from a pub radius, and then I'm straight back in.
And also, when you come back in, it's instant.
Instant.
It's like you've been turned back on again.
Oh, great. I mean, neither of them are hugely damning rap sheets of sort of lockdown behaviour.
So what were mine? Affable and wins board games?
No, it was the moustache and just not a very sort of fun board game companion, I suppose.
Well, I'd like to point out to my fiancée that I talked her through the rules to Ticket to Ride, provided the board game, and we both had a lovely time playing it. I also secured my highest ever, and I think one of the highest ever Scrabble scores across the lockdown, which was 602.
Oh, wow. I don't have that kind of data to hand, but I dare say if anyone on this video conference has researched it, it would be you. Shall we start talking? Shall we go a little bit further? So I've committed maybe a bit too hard to the This Is Your Life sort of style, as well as the natty sports jacket. I've got a red folder of family photos from the early 90s.
I love your writing, Ivo.
Sorry?
It's straight from a W.H. Smith's jotter.
Well, it's a W.H. Smith's folder, Elis.
No, but the W.H. Smith's jotters that you used to be able to buy for school, the front cover would have things like, must take Sue to a swimming lesson.
Oh, right.
Yeah, do you not remember this?
Well, no, I think not for the first time. The age difference has slightly been our enemy there. But it's lovely to hear that W.H. Smith are so consistent across the brand, as you'd expect. So we met in 2009, and that was when I did my first year at the Edinburgh Fringe, and both of you were doing your first shows at the Edinburgh Fringe. And I was intimidated by both of you. Elis by his gift for multiple impressions and accents, and John by the white heat of his passive aggression. Now, what I've got is some PR materials and reviews of both of your respective first Edinburgh shows. Ooh. So I thought we'd have a quick. They were broadly quite positively reviewed. So again, this is not a hatchet job. But if I said, for example, whose review was this? Was rather frustrated by his fruitless bantering with the audience, as there's no need for such overt "where you from" comparing at a solo show.
Hello,
that's Elis.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, I do take issue with that as well, actually, because there was a layer of irony to it that Steve Bennett from Chortle missed.
There was a layer of irony to the fruitless bantering.
Yeah. It was deliberately fruitless, but seemingly he could understand that.
It's a huge gamble, surely.
Yeah, a gamble that didn't pay off.
One's first Edinburgh show with some ironically fruitless comparing. But 11 years on, it's paid dividends. And also, we must stress that after that point, the anecdotes and observations flow freely with an endearing wit and a fine sense of timing and pace.
How many stars?
3 for both of you.
Yeah.
So there's a lovely equilibrium to the feature. Whose show was described as a fond remembrance of things past, memories which can now be packed away so he can move on with life.
Oh, Johnny Jr.
Well, that's John Robbins, of course, the incurable nostalgic. Have you packed away all of your memories now, John, or are you still indulging most of them on a fairly regular basis?
Well, that show, with the working title for that show was... so it was called Skinny Love, but the working title, what I was going to call it, was Little Piles of Neatly Folded Clothes.
Right.
Which is, I'm so glad I didn't call it that.
A good decision, I think.
It was just bang. 8 years later, when I was finally able to sort of wield that kind of heft.
It was in many ways a Darkness of Robin's preview show.
In many ways it was, but you saw that show a couple of times, didn't you? You liked it.
I came twice like the fanboy I was, and I absolutely loved it. And I actually agreed with Steve Bennett when he said that this show actually might serve as a good personal ad for Robbins, since an hour in his charming, generous and honest company is so
effortlessly entertaining.
It's fair to say his first date with the Fringe has gone very well indeed.
3 stars.
Yeah, so that's really lovely.
I would never forget the gig he was at. It was him, Sarah Millican, John Richardson, Paul Sinha, 2 German tourists, and James Kettle and a judge from the awards panel. And that was it.
You know, there was that news story today about how the government sort of semi-seriously proposed that you might be allowed to take 10 friends into your next phase of lockdown.
Yeah.
Yep.
What a 10 you've just described. Elis, as someone who is very close to John and was close to him at the time, what song did John have in the bit of the show that was described as his comedy as therapy phase? What song did he describe as having on a loop?
Well, he walked on to Skinny Love by Bon Iver.
Skinny Love, I'm afraid.
I remember that.
This is from a bit of material. This is me describing having a song on a loop when I was clinically fed up.
I can't remember, I'm afraid. I do remember a really good bit about an electric window working very slowly.
Look at that.
Do you know what I'm talking about, Joe?
Motivational nugget to sneak into such a heartfelt show.
I used to have a bit of material about pulling up to take a phone call outside Staples on the M32 at 1 a.m. And I was approached by a sex worker.
Right.
And there was confusion where she came up to my car. I was on the phone. She said, "Are you looking for business?" And I didn't immediately understand what she meant. And when I did twig what sort of the transaction was, I sort of quite flusteredly said, "No thanks, I'm not looking for business," then wound my window up. But the motor on my Daewoo Lanos's electric window was broken, so it went up incredibly slowly, which I think I described in the show as like a web page loading on dial-up internet.
Oh, yeah.
And there you go.
And would you describe that anecdote about a sex worker as punching up or punching down?
Well, I've changed some of the terminology that I've used in light of 100% good changes to terminology relating to various things.
And also 11 years of growth as an individual.
Very much so. I wasn't trying to take any of the sting out of a lovely bit of car window-based observational comedy. And John...
He's punching sideways, isn't it? Punching myself.
Yeah, I think it's punching your car.
He's punching myself and my car next to a sex worker.
It's punching
I regret the
Daewoo.
question. Clearly, you're not punching in any direction. It's a bit of fun about a Daewoo Lanos. I do apologise.
It could have been anyone. It could have been a sex worker. It could have been the mayor. It could have been an accountant. It could have been a court stenographer.
Yeah.
The joke is about the motor of a Daewoo Lanos, 1999 Daewoo Lanos automatic window.
Yeah, what a rapid-fire suggestion of potential other people it could have been. I'm not sure I could have done that many different occupations that quickly.
It could have been Charlotte Church.
Could have been a church warden.
Let's have a quick bit of Ellis's PR blurb from 2009.
Before you say this, can I ask Elis who was doing your PR in 2009?
It wasn't who you're thinking of. I can't remember. I think it would have been Nancy. Do you remember Nancy?
Yes, because she's got the same name as my grandmother.
Right, yeah. I think
it's
Nancy.
a lovely name.
I don't think it was the lady I don't think it was the person you're thinking of. Well, it's obviously a lady now, because I've said it. It wasn't the man you're thinking of.
Goodness me, what a confusing chat, not just for me, but for the viewers at home.
Okay.
Ellis James is such a cautious little boy that this year will be the first solo offering from this cheeky and irreverent bilingual Welsh comic.
I didn't write that, did I?
Someone wrote it, and they put your name to it. Lovely. He may not have your back in a fight. Don't ask him to try the escargot. And if you're proposing a charity parachute jump, you have the wrong man. But for a great hour of spontaneous, light-hearted comedy banter, James should be at the top of Actually, that may be in that middle ground where someone on a website is plugging your show because they're hosting a preview of it, and they have.
No, I think Elis has sweated over that blurb.
No, I think that James should be at the top of your list. I think that was from a review, a pre-festival review. I don't think I would never have written that.
Considering the argument we had today, Elis, and how angry you got about the music I like and the music you like, and how the music you like is uncompromising and harsh and gritty and real, I'm not sure what the Clash and the Fall and the Who would make about an hour of cheeky, affable banter.
I was confused then, John, but I've grown into myself at the age of 39, and I would like to distance myself from the way I thought at the age of 28, actually, because he was a div.
Fair enough. Good answer. Very good answer.
Do you think the inimitable, though God knows you've tried, Marquis Smith, would be someone you could ask to try the escargot? I don't know what that is. I don't even know what that means. I don't think I'd have written that. I don't think Let's move swiftly on, but not too far away. So I've been in touch with legendary comedy promoter Jeff Whiting, who runs lots of gigs, particularly in the southwest of England, which all of us have been the beneficiaries of.
Can I just say,
yes,
because we've discussed that escargot line, which I do not remember, and I remember most things, but I do not remember that. Can I just say that in April, around the time you really have to finalise your posters, at about 1:30 in the morning, John called me up and said, "I'd like to run an idea past you." I'm really, really pleased with the video, with the poster. I've sent you an image. Have a look at it. I had a look at it. I called him back. He said, "Right,
Elis, I can actually get the image up on my computer. And
well, the idea I'd like to run past you, Elis, is that I would like the poster to remain as is, but with two big lips doing a kiss." To show that the show is about romance.
Hang on a sec.
I said, that is a fucking terrible idea.
I don't think we have the time or the tech for you to do some on-the-fly screen sharing.
No,
if people want to Google the poster for Elis James, the most cautious little boy in Wales, they can.
No, but either they'll never get to see this, because this is the draft of this skinny love poster with the kiss attached.
A big kiss, like Rolling Stones' lips, is what I remember.
That is, to be fair, exclusive content.
Yeah.
While John finds and loads the image, we've received a tweet from Horstenbury saying, "Ivo Graham, please ask Elis about Geordie financial year." Now, as a long-time fan of the show, I'm aware of the mythology surrounding Geordie financial year.
Are you ready, guys?
Yeah.
We are coming back to it, though. Come on, John.
So hang on a sec. Let me try and get this right. How does that look, guys?
Lovely. I think a good decision there.
It's not. I tell you what, considering I had no money and I had no agent of sort of real presence in Edinburgh, it's not, the actual typeset and the design is quite neat.
Yeah. It looks a bit like a David O'Doherty poster.
It's not trying to do too much apart from the lips, which we then removed.
Yeah. What's Barking Mad Comedy, John?
That's Chaz.
Oh, okay.
We can't go into all of these details. So, Elis, in my quest to unearth a bit more about Geordie financial year, this week I emailed 15 different Newcastle-based accountancy firms and received a response from none of them.
No way.
I was devastated. I said, you know when you're just Googling Newcastle-based accountancy firms and copy-pasting the emails from their contact form and hammering the same desperate but polite email out to all of them, and you hit about 10, and you think, well, I'm not going to have time to read 10 responses on the video conference. I'll just message a few more just in case some of them don't get back to me. 0 have got back to me about whether, to quote me, they could provide any information, however serious or fanciful, about the service you provide and whether there is anything could be incorporated into the loose concept of Geordie financial year.
Have you got nothing?
I got nothing, not even an auto response bounce back.
To be fair, they are probably like my accountant, busy hosting weekly webinars, which are amongst the highlights of my week.
And what a cleansing sorbet in between the heavy meat of the webinars it would be to write a quick response to a stand-up comedian about the particularities of accounting in Newcastle and how that might constitute a stand-up comedy bit about Geordie financial year in the mid-noughties.
A lot of people have questioned whether it was real, and it was totally real. It was my opener for 2 years, 2005, 2006, and then I did it on tour in 2016. Obviously it didn't work, so it wasn't a very good bit, but I remember it working. So I think in the way that, you know, comedy and culture moves at a glacial pace, and as long as you're on the glacier you don't realize it's moving. It's only when you get off you realize that it's moving. I think that's what's happened with that routine. I think what's happened is that it just plugged into a mindset, and a mindset that has disappeared with the sands of time, unfortunately.
One of the most poetic excuses for not unearthing an old bit of stand-up material I've ever heard. But I would very quickly just like to name and shame WBS Accountants, Orange Umbrella, Kinsey Jones, Robson Laidler, Stevenson Coates, Tate Walker, Joseph Miller, Rycroft Glenton, React Accountancy, Glen C. Roger, and HWCA for their failure to shed any light whatsoever. Should we do a quiz?
Yeah.
Yes, please. And then, because people might have been watching White Noise for quite a while, should we then have a brief interval? Or where do you want the interval to come, Ivo, now? Well, it was going to be at 8:45.
It was.
We started 33 minutes late. 37 minutes late.
Do you think we should chance an interval?
There's an argument to say press on without an interval.
That's a good point.
I mean, imagine if it stopped working after the interval. That would be devastating.
Really, really big on both those points.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to check Twitter actually as you talk to see how it's going.
Right. I am going to... I'm going to press on with the quiz. And usually when you would play a quiz on your Radio X show or your 5 Live show, it would be to play a song of your choice on the radio show. Yeah. Whereas today you will be playing to not have your email to Jeff Whiting from 2009.
You are kidding me, Elis. Stop looking at the internet. You can see the reflection of your glasses like Alan Partridge with the lady with the boobs. You haven't.
We've just got a few emails from back in the day.
I've got the email Jeff sent me as a reply, the advice email.
Oh, I'm not sure that's the one we're talking about. I'll be honest, John, your one is quite dry. It's just about the Bath Comedy Festival. Ellis has got, oh yeah. I would say that everything that I have dug up for this ambitious video conference is within the brief you gave me of light ribbing.
I think we need to contextualize Jeff a little bit.
Cool.
For viewers at home. Jeff Whiting is the person who, when you do your very first open mic gigs in whatever town you live, once you've done that gig, and unless it's London, there's usually only one or two, then when you want to move on and start doing gigs in different towns to stretch your legs a little bit, Jeff Whiting is almost certainly the promoter. The man who will be
a gig in every town, city, village, church hall, anything you can imagine.
Extraordinary. And Jeff is absolutely fantastic in that he gives new acts a go. So
often the gigs that Jeff runs with Mirth Control are in a variety of settings.
Yeah, with a variety of pay structures and a variety of standard of act.
But he not only gave me my first ever gigs in a comedy club as opposed to like an open mic night, he also gave me my first paid gigs.
Yeah, me too.
He gave me my first gig for £10, my first gig for £50, my first gig for £100, my first gig for £200. So he is an incredibly important part of the mulch on the forest floor of comedy.
And he did that for everyone. He did that for people because he is the person you contact first. But, and I am trying to justify the email that Ivor has clearly got hold of. When you are contacting him, you are desperate for work. Absolutely desperate.
Listen, I just had to think of a light incentive to not lose the quiz. The emails aren't hugely incriminating. The man is master of all he surveys. This is mainly about resurrecting Winner Plays On.
Oh, great.
Great.
So what I've done is I prepared a 5-question round for both of you, and they are all questions that you got wrong in the first few Winner Plays Ons of your then XFM show in 2014.
I vote if you were in my house now, I could kiss you.
Yeah.
That's such a good idea.
Well, very nice
you're good, Ivo.
It's a great shame none of the Newcastle-based accountants replied to me. Otherwise, I really think I would have done a really extensive job for this. So I don't, however, have a coin. Elis, I've got 2 cans from a Welsh brewery, I believe based in Newport, called Tiny Rebel.
Yeah.
One is Easy Living Pale, and one is Kulch.
Oh, Kutch, yeah, which means cuddle.
Elis has a problematic relationship with that word. Carry on.
Which one of them is not a session ale?
Kutch is quite strong, I think.
Kutch is 4.6. Easy Living is 4.3. Elis, would you like to go first or second?
I'd like to go first, please.
Right. Elis, in March 2014, you were asked, Swansea City were founded in 1912, but what year did the club join the Football League?
1921.
That is correct. In 2014, you said 1922.
Oh.
Your exasperation was audible. Whose head did Swansea's mascot Cyril the Swan drop kick across the vetch in 2001?
Zampa the Lion, the Millwall.
It was the head of the Millwall mascot Zampa the Lion.
Yeah. Very funny.
We were hoping for the comedy of you getting the same questions wrong.
What did he say the first time for that?
I didn't know. I think you just passed. Which Swansea City player won Premier League Player of the Month in March 2012? So all quite a dated question, even when this was being asked.
Michu, I imagine.
I'm afraid the correct answer was Gylfi Sigurdsson. What 5 labels did Gorky's Zygotic Monkey release music under?
Angst.
Correct.
Mercury, Fontana.
Yes. I need all 5, I'm afraid.
Beggar's Banquet.
Not Beggar's Banquet. The same wrong answer you gave
in
2014.
Wichita.
You gave an excuse then about how one was a subsidiary of the other.
Wichita.
No, I'm afraid the remaining 2 were Mantra and Sanctuary.
Oh my God.
So that's 2 out of 4.
Elis is not competitive, but when it matters to him, gets so. There is a unique joy to quizzing with Elis when the subject he's talking about matters to him.
You don't need to tell me, John. I've done pointless celebrities with him. So question 5. In November 1993,
the booking that caused me to leave a WhatsApp group for 48 hours.
It was very gloomy on the WhatsApp group after your departure, and my attempt to get a cheap laugh by referencing it now does not cancel out my regret over the whole business.
It would be very funny if I now closed down the conversation and made the joke of leaving the conversation, but I'm not going to take that risk.
No.
Well, that's very good of you, John. I think you'd have to say objectively the right decision.
Yeah.
In November 1993, Wales crashed out of World Cup qualification with a 2-1 home defeat to Romania. Who scored for Romania?
Georgie Haji.
You got him right in 2014, but did you get the second one right? No.
Dumitrescu.
was
Oh my God.
2014. It's a time capsule. I'm afraid the correct answer was Florian Raduciu. So that is 2, or technically 2.5 for Elis. So I suppose 3 if you're giving half points for the Gorky's levels, but I'm not sure.
No, I don't think we are. I think we're giving him 2 or 2.5 if there's a tie break on 2. I'm just going to move my booze table slightly. Fun fact: this is the NHS grade invalids overbird table featured in The Darkness of Robbins.
One of the 3.
One, well, no, the only one at the time.
I see. I do apologise.
Which is available to watch on Netflix.
I'll be plugging it again later on in the video conference. John.
Yeah.
2 to beat, or possibly 2.5. Where did Freddie Mercury study graphic design?
At Ealing School of Art.
That is correct.
What did I say originally?
I can't remember. Somewhere.
I may have said St Martin's.
Somewhere more central, I believe. On which Balearic island did Freddie Mercury celebrate his 41st birthday?
Ibiza.
That is correct.
I originally would have said Biarritz, and I would have confused it with Roger Taylor celebrates his birthday.
It's not looking great for Elis and his email to Jeff.
It's looking great for hanging out with Freddie Mercury.
Question 3.
Mm.
After Queen's controversial gig at Sun City,
All right.
to what cause did they donate some of the royalties?
Well, can I preempt what might be controversial about this? They built a school for the blind.
And deaf?
And deaf.
Mm.
They didn't discriminate.
No.
In South Africa. So I'm going to say that. But I know that Brian spoke quite movingly and eloquently at the Musicians Union. But unfortunately, they were still blacklisted. Well, fortunately, or depending on what your view was on the situation, I'm not going to. Well, I am going to take sides, but I'm not going to tell you which side I've taken. But they were wrong.
It's a murky issue, but they did donate towards the School for the Deaf and Blind, which was a solid gesture and a correct answer.
Can I just go on record in saying it's not actually a murky issue? I'm going to break a nation's silence on this that has lasted some 32 odd years. Queen should not have played Sun City. However, right, the same ire.
Do remember this is going out live to people, John.
They should not have played Sun City. It was a mistake. They should have admitted it was a mistake earlier. The same ire should also be meted out to other artists that played Sun City. That's what I'm saying. Queen seemed to be something of a scapegoat. A lightning rod, understandably. They made a mistake. Where's Rod Stewart in all of this?
England cricket team.
Where's Dame Kiri Takanawa in all of this? Oh, she sang this theme tune to the Rugby World Cup. No one was, Anyway, carry on.
British Lions,
Someone
1974.
who was starting to be made the scapegoat for the technical issues at the start of this broadcast. I can very much understand Queen's issue there. So, John, you've technically already won, but we're going to finish, see if you can get the big 5.
Yes, please.
Where was Ronnie O'Sullivan born?
Oh, you little minx. You little minx. I think he was actually born in the Midlands.
He was born in Wordsley in the West Midlands. Not, as you said, in 2014, where he grew up, which
Chigwell.
was Chigwell in Essex. So that's, you didn't say Wordsley, but it's as good as a point, since you've already won. And finally, what were John Deacon's A-level results?
3 A's.
3 A's, the first truly controversial winner plays on question.
I mean, at least I've had the dignity not to ask me Brian May's height, 6'1.5".
6'1.5". Even I know that now.
So
I'll never forget
6 out of 5.
Yeah.
So do we get to hear Elis's email to Jeff?
Yes. Hello, Jeff. Thanks for all the gigs I've had from Mirth Control during the past few weeks. It's been much appreciated. That's fine. That's
lovely.
Yeah. I was desperate. I needed the money, and
there's nothing wrong with it. You're industrious. In America, they'll be whooping
this. My emails of this sort of purpose to promoters would be infinitely more embarrassing, and I'm just pleased that I do not have the platform where there is any interest in what I sent and to whom. I'm laughing not at the email, but just at the tension it's created on the video conference. This is just a quick note to say that I'm now on flexi time at work, which means I can travel that little bit further during the week. I've done lots Bath, Cheltenham, etc. So going to somewhere like X or X wouldn't be a problem at all for me. Which 2 cities did you propose as potential gig venues for your new increased, wider gigging remit?
Birmingham and Leeds.
Birmingham and Wolverhampton.
Oh!
Absolutely wonderful. And then quite a moving story about your fiance doing some gigs for him in Guernsey while you were in Australia. But I think we've had enough whiting.
Well, I've just found my first email to Jeff Whiting. I've got it all here.
Bung it in, John, despite your 5-2 win in the quiz.
Hi, Jeff. My name is John Robbins, and I was told to get in touch with you by Mark Olver. Basically, I could do with some advice on how to get as many gigs as possible in the Southwest. I'm registered on Mirth Control and have been booked to do 3 gigs. The one I've done so far was in Minehead with Mickey D, which went down really well. He also suggested I get in contact with you. I'm not sure I really understand how Mirth Control works, but obviously my aim is to get on your books in the future and wondered how it is best to go about this. Should I assume that if I keep getting asked to do gigs through the website that I'm doing the right thing and that some positive feedback is making its way to you? I apologise for sending you this email before we've actually met, but maybe it would be possible for you or someone from Mirth Control to see me perform. I appreciate you must get a lot of these kinds of emails, but I'm sure Mark would happily reassure you that I've got the potential and I'm worth looking out for. Thanks for your time. John. P.S.
John, you may as well have added, P.S. Please, sir, can I have some more?
Well, you get to hear the P.S. I have added. P.S. I'm doing the Plymouth Ride Cafe on the 13th of July, Totnes on the 28th, both for Mirth Control, brackets booked through Dan, and the So You Think You're Funny trial in Tooting on the 26th. I'm also free on the 24th if you want to throw caution to the wind for that Moscow gig.
Wonderful.
Imagine I'd been going for 2 months if he booked me to gig in Moscow.
From Minehead to Moscow. I'm going to kick in only because he's been such a saint over the last few days with some content that has been sourced either directly from or through the lovely Robin Allender. John, Robin's put together a few memories of your happy times together. For example, the time you were out in Bristol and he, a young stand-up on the verge of success, tried to impress a girl in a kebab shop by showing her his appearance on Russell Howard's Good News on his phone.
Oh, mate. Oh, real mates never die.
I was with Izzy when I did Russell Howard's Good News, so
You weren't able to use it as the...
I didn't use it for any nefarious purposes.
So we'd gone to a kebab van after going to the Thekla, so it would have been about 2 a.m. Oh, man. It's the only time I think I've ever sort of tried to impress someone by my, at that time, and still some might argue today, pretty limited career achievements. But what was funny was the point at which I was talking about being on Russell Howard's Good News, she was kind of quite interested. When I actually got it up on my phone, and it took a while to buffer because this would have been like an iPhone 2. She then quickly sort of made good with her legs and left. So I think it was my commitment to proving it that made me so unattractive.
Were you planning on showing her the whole thing?
Is superior to the reality of it.
All 10 minutes of it?
I think the thing was I was wearing the same T-shirt that night as I had been on. So that sort of was an extra layer of proof.
So you wanted to prove that you only had one T-shirt?
I've got loads, they're in there.
Well, it's a lovely vignette from the lovely Robin as his memory of the time after a particularly emotionally turbulent New Year's Eve party when you greeted him on New Year's morning with the words, "Life is but a district of death."
God, I remember that party. Christ. Yeah, a lot of moving parts in that party.
Yeah.
I was Gollum. It was in Moreton-on-the-Marsh, which is a beautiful, beautiful town, but unfortunately, the stresses and strains of unrequited love in New Year's Eve, plus being dressed as Gollum with essentially just a loincloth.
Were you a laugh then?
For I would say, very short, brief, intense periods, I was a laugh.
That's what I remember, sporadic. You were a sporadic laugh, but really good when,
Just
when
enough to
form.
keep you coming back.
Yeah. / sharing lifts with you to gigs.
Can you complete this? Has he mentioned the time when we lived together and he would often come home from a gig he thought had gone well and see our flatmate Alex and me in the living room and pronounce 2 pricks, 1 legend.
Oh, God. Oh, my gee. Oh, I'm so sorry for who I've been.
No, I think this is all lovely memories.
I love it when you say that. I love it when you apologise for yourself.
God,
I find it so endearing.
Imagine being that kind of person.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Well, there was that comic who we all know who used to go into dressing rooms after doing well and pretend, to imply that he'd ripped it.
Oh no!
Which was
at least oh God, no, there's no saving grace there.
John, let's turn away from the mischief of the lovely Robin to the rather more sincere testimonial provided by your professor at Oxford, Professor Vincent Gillespie.
Shut up.
My abiding memory of John Robbins is a long, lean streak of cheerfully sardonic and intellectual self-defence, part of a group of whip-smart and challengingly sceptical undergraduates. Habitually wearing a t-shirt and jeans, he would arrive for tutorials wrapped in a superhero's cape of mildly sarcastic self-effacement. But underneath it, there lay a sensitive, perceptive, and very acute reader.
Oh my God.
John was unusually good at listening to the voices of the pages he was reading, even when he didn't like what he was hearing, and then being very funny about what was wrong with them. In essays, John could patiently build exasperation and irritation over several pages. As his success in comedy has shown, he has an innately good ear for the rhythms of language and for the cumulative play of words. Who says the humanities have no future? When normality returns, we should have a boozy Oxford lunch.
Oh my God.
Bloody hell.
So, in amidst all the kebab house self-promoting, there was a very diligent and rather beautifully souled undergraduate.
He was my favourite.
He could...
To think you wasted all that talent.
Oh, Vince. Oh, mate of my mates.
Let's crack on now to
Pipe
Bill
smoker
Jones,
of my youth.
Emeritus Professor from Cardiff University.
Piss off.
How did you know about Dr. Gillespie?
The lovely Robin, as I say. He has gone above and beyond, and I believe he too will attend the boozy Oxford lunch.
How did you get hold of Bill? I've got one of his books up there, which I never give back to him. Hopefully he's not watching. I'll send it tomorrow.
I'm sure he'd welcome it back. Although it's pushing 20 years since I taught Elis, then Owain, I remember him very well and have fond memories of our wide-ranging discussions in Welsh, English, and bullshit.
Oh.
Some of the discussions were even relevant to the topic we were studying at the time. It was a laugh a minute having him in my classes, and he was a model student. It's been great to see him become so successful, and I wish him all the very best with everything. I've not caught much of his work on TV since, but I have caught some of the movie blunders.
Fuck off, no way.
Oh my God. Imagine that's your epitaph.
It's going to be part of my epitaph. It's not going to be the
Emeritus Professor Bill Jones tuning in to another lovely movie blunders.
Beset by blunders.
As someone who is almost as nostalgic for his student days as both of you, it moved me to receive and read those emails.
Oh,
Ivor, can you send me a copy of what Dr. Gillespie said, please?
Forwarded on.
I think about his tutorials once a day and have done for 20 years.
I like the fact that in the tutorials, you were not only being insightful with the text, you were being exasperated and irritated with them.
Well, so that might refer to one or two things, but one of them would be one of the options I chose was literary theory, just because everyone did it. And I went to the first lecture, because this was like a central lecture, and it was talking about something about literature's leaves in the wind. And I just put my hand up and said, how on earth does this have anything to do with me doing an essay on Chaucer or whoever it was? And the professor taking the lecture said, it sounds like you've been asked to do something you don't want to do. And I said, yeah. And I left, I quit and did linguistics instead as that option. And apparently the next week, in the next lecture, she said, I see we are one short, and I hear he has chosen to change to linguistics. Well, I'm afraid he won't find that a walk in the park either.
Either. A very damning use of either there.
Mm.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, John. But I think.
Well, no, I was glad. I enjoyed linguistics a lot. I found literary theory very vague.
I'm just consulting some feedback here on potentially when we should get our guests in, but that's not to say that I couldn't bathe in your university memories.
I cannot believe
all the day and all of the night.
That a lecturer I think of all the time, a person who changed my life, of all the stuff I've done, has
Knows
watched.
you for pointing out that paracetamol wasn't invented in 1948. It was invented in 1949.
It wasn't paracetamol. It was actually the push cap.
Ellis,
Yeah.
I should say that he also has caught some of your stuff on S4C and Richard Osman's House of Games. So exclusively.
He's getting all the good stuff. It's Crunch and Crumble.
Oh,
Elis looks like he's the last man at a karaoke bar.
it's because I put weight on and I can't do the top button up on my tie anymore.
Yeah, that's the reason.
Yeah. So I can't look.
Do me, Ed. What about what I look like?
I'll do one about you, Ivo. Finding emails from promoters when we all know you wrote a handwritten letter to Dave Gorman to ask to be his support act.
Yes, on his cycling comedy tour of the UK, the Sit Down Pedal Stand Up tour.
That was last year.
I tell you what Ivo looks like. He looks like a hip secondary school teacher.
Brilliant.
Who's the only part of him that has told his students he's about to set up his own coffee grinding business is his facial hair.
Well, Matthew Crosby's right there, and he's been that person.
I've got a coffee bean that person. Yeah, Ivo, it's actually a really nice beard you've got there. Is it purely for lockdown, or is this going to be you for the foreseeable?
I think it'll be just for lockdown, really, Matthew.
It looks fantastic.
Oh, well, that's very sweet of you to say. And for a while, it was pretty much all going for us. Ed's is also there.
It's also,
if I really lean in.
Yeah.
But I'm not obviously trying to sort of laud it as the best new beard in town. I'm just delighted that it's not actively embarrassing.
No, it's good. It's good. I mean, Ed, what you probably need to do is possibly just for a minute, because it's like the hair is all there, but it's just the colour is a little bit pale.
I don't know. Well, no,
I'm sorry, Ed.
What I'm thinking, Matthew, is how grateful I am that I'm not receiving any sort of advice, because I don't. The point of this is that it's just something that can be let go during this sort of frozen time in society, rather than something that needs to be maintained.
Yeah, I don't do anything to this, but it seems like it kind of grow. Like people assume I sort of shave it into this shape, and this is my vibe. This is my look.
Well, it's a lovely look, Matthew, and it's lovely to be able to see and hear you, which was not
always the case.
We could even really imagine about an hour ago. Take us through. I know, Ed, you were watching. What exactly it looked like at about 8:15.
There was mild panic on Ivo's face. Elis just seemed like Elis, and John had just completely given up.
Well, there was a long period when Ivo was just talking, like he was just there, and there were two other blank screens, two empty rooms, and Ivo was just talking. You didn't. How long were you doing at the top, Ivo, before you realised that you did?
I did a 2-minute monologue. With
It was really nice as well.
About the blurry line between friendship and fandom.
Right.
And what a privilege it was to have this quite unique gig, but also acknowledging the pressure I was under. And in a way, I'm hugely grateful that that's been lost, and that we eventually were able to cut to something a bit more efficient, such as, oh, it's working. Right, Elis and John, come on in.
Right. You didn't think to sort of repeat it at the top and go through it again?
No.
We actually did.
Oh, you did?
That also wasn't working. So actually, the start was the third start. So Ivo's now done. And do you know what? To be fair to Ivo, the second one, he even though no one had heard the first one, he still didn't repeat any material. So he did a second 1 minute intro just straight off the top of his bonds.
So he did an early and a late show.
Yeah, he's the kind of stand-up you'd want in the trenches with you.
The promise I offer is
or in a comedy club.
If you're in the trenches, you want somebody who's really good at firing a gun at the enemy. True, surely.
I'd say
the last time Elis did a gig, there were actual trenches.
That's my kind of humour. That is superb humour.
Now, gents, given that you took over the Radio X slot,
not the same slot.
Thank
you.
The slot will change, mate, and you won't have any say in it whatsoever.
We'd be very happy for the slot to change.
Yes, fair enough. It sounds like a nightmare.
Sometime in the middle of the day would be great. Sometime in sort of waking hours would be ideal.
The problem is with radio is that all of the sort of prime time slots are incredibly inconvenient.
I've got a lot of time on my hands. I literally work 3 hours a week.
What time do you wake up to get into the studio by 8?
Great question. Glad you asked it. 6 o'clock.
I'm currently not going into the studio, so I wake at 7 o'clock and walk up 8 steps.
This is my question. Why is Matthew going into the studio?
Because do you know what? Because I'm glad you asked this, because Corona is bioengineered, and I want to talk about 5G. No.
You're a believer in herd immunity.
Finally, I'm a believer in herd immunity. Myself and Vin get off with each other during the songs. That's what we do, just because we want to be as strong as we possibly can. Okay? You guys, when this lockdown is over, we're going to be the supermen, all right? We're going to be the superhumans who are out there on the streets. Let me just tell you that, I don't know why I think it's because they value Ed more.
I'm not to compare apples with pears, but the BBC, like, either Elis and I are incredibly dispensable,
yes,
or they're very keen for us not to die. So they're sort of two different coins.
Could it be all eyes are on the BBC? Could it be that as well?
It could be, but I would have.
No one's looking at Radio X. People are barely listening to it.
No, they are in record numbers. Don't you worry.
Course, that's what I meant to say.
I still follow Rajar.
Well, I hope you enjoy not going into the studio next week, Matthew. Top brass are watching this, you know that.
Of course, I apologise for that.
But surely, if it's possible to do it remotely, it's not the ideal. It's incredibly stressful at times. Or do you quite like going in? I guess actually what I'm building towards is what's it like walking around central London when there's no one there, when you can pretend there's been some awful sort of event, which actually there has been, but I want to go into central London.
Yeah, that's the exact phrasing that's come in on the Q&A, actually.
It was over 3 separate tweets. All I do is walk through Leicester Square, and I usually walk through Leicester Square at 7 a.m. anyway, and there's no one there, so it's sort of the same.
Right.
I don't go on a little. I don't go on a jaunt or anything like that, because obviously
I would be jaunting like mad.
No, that's breaking the lockdown. I'm driving into a car park. I'm walking across Leicester Square. I'm going into work. I'm not touching anything. They've given me some special goo to clean all the equipment with, and I just use that and do the show, get back in the car, and off I go.
Tell you what I would be doing is I would be using the time post-show to do my hours exercise by visiting landmarks in a deserted scenario. And I went on webcams. You can find webcams of London traffic on like the RAC website. And I was sort of watching deserted zones. and imagining that I was there just sort of walking around like the only survivor. But the problem is there's always one jogger. So in a sense, it's like one fly in your soup / if your fantasy
/ you're also a fly.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing.
It's like the second fly showing up in a soup that's already got a fly in it. Yeah.
So it's like you walk into a pub and it's empty and you think, oh, bliss, it's an empty pub. And then you sort of see behind a corner there's a guy chatting at the bar being a bit loud. And it's like you're that close to it being deserted. But then you realise you're there as well. So that guy is looking at you going, why is that guy coming into my pub? So you can never sort of there's no such thing as a truly empty pub because you're always in the pub.
Do you know
this is like watching a mad YouTuber.
Yeah.
It feels like watching just like a sort of a cheery prison planet.
Yeah.
There was a lovely moment where Matthew used the phrase special goo, and Ed and I both chuckled and sort of sat forward ready to riff. And then unfortunately John's existential monologue about the RAT website.
No one wanted to hear about the funny flubber. No, it's a shame. So anyway, to answer your question, 6 a.m.
Lovely. There's a couple of extra questions about... I'll be honest, someone has had a go at me for drinking out of a can, so I've switched to a glass, and it's been picked up on that I've done that as a direct result of...
Why?
Because I aim to please.
But do you find that the nicer the can, the more willing you are to drink from the can?
I love drinking from a can, but I just think when there is an audience out there, there's just a touch of class.
Oh, yeah.
Can I ask a question about what constitutes a nice can, John?
Well, since the sort of craft...
aren't they?
No, since the craft beer revolution, a great deal, and I'd love to bring Ed in on this. There have been leaps and bounds forward in can design. I'm not talking about the actual structure of the can, though. Hazy Days have invented a can where you pull off the entire top, which I don't actually like. It's a bit creepy because it feels like you've picked up a sort of a makeshift ashtray from a party. However, the actual labels are essentially street art, but in a legal forum.
Yeah, you're drinking out of art, essentially.
You're drinking out of art.
Yeah, there we go.
That's a bad example.
I've got
I've
got this can here. Is that art?
Well, yes, in a way it is.
Right, great, fantastic.
So, producer Vin, our mutual friend, has been behind Robin Allender, I'd say, the second biggest contributor to the backlog of Elis and John material, and he's that I prepared for this. And we've got a few testimonials from some former XFM or Radio X producers. I'd like to start with the one from a chap called Steve Ferdinando.
Birds. Creating memes about Green Day at the rate you would not believe.
Well, here's his
If
memory.
only they could create PPE at the rate, Stephen.
At the rate he can source peppers. Yeah.
If PPE had a picture of one person and another person, and one was saying festival tickets going online, and the other person said me, and they were doing something involving rushing, that we wouldn't be in this nightmare.
Yeah.
That's objectively true. Steve Ferdinando says, I only produced Elis and John once. Elis was in the Leicester Square studio, and John was coming down the line from Edinburgh, where he'd been doing a run of shows as part of the festival. I think he'd had a bad gig the night before, and then perhaps a bad glass of wine afterwards, because the first words he said down the ISDN were, "Oh Christ." It remains to this day the worst and most chaotic radio show I've ever worked on. But I guess that's the point. I moved to a career in digital content shortly afterwards.
Oh, but I have very fond memories of Steve Ferdinando.
Yeah,
as he's known in the trade, and what a lovely, gentle, self-effacing man.
Lovely. I don't think he was the only person he was effacing in that testimonial, but it's still a lovely thing to be able to draw on. Do you want a Masterman? Do you want a Trav? Do you want a Vin?
a Trav, please.
I'll just crack through Cy Fowler very quickly.
Okay.
only produced them once, and they'd probably struggle to remember me, but thanks for asking.
Oh, come on, Si. Back yourself, man.
Back yourself, Si.
The lovely Trav said...
Bit of fun, Matthew and Ed. If you ever need something, Si will have it in his desk. It is.
If you
there's
ever
literally
need...
no one in when we go. It's just
That's
it's us
when you
and
get
Vin, and that's
into his
it.
desk,
That's when you
mate.
get in his desk.
Right. Oh, you mean don't ask him if it's in his desk?
Post-it
I see.
notes,
You don't ask him.
scissors, pens,
Yeah.
paracetamol,
Uranium.
Barocca. Johnny's is the only thing he didn't have, but luckily I didn't need them.
I forgot about that show where you tried to shag Vin. That was amazing.
John, do you remember the first time we met?
Well,
I'm going to pour some...
no, but I
in his
know
eyes.
you remember the first time we met.
Well, the first time we met online was when you messaged me on the Chortle forums because you'd put up a post saying, "Is anyone doing the same semi-final of So You Think You're Funny as I Am?" which is a comedy competition. And I said, I am. And you messaged me to say, "Are you deadpan? I'm really worried that there's people that are the same style as me on the bill."
Those are the concerns, man.
Yeah.
I was very deadpan.
Well,
I've even got my
and
first routine on this computer.
This will be of interest to listeners quickly. I met you at a party that year, and you were drinking a cup of tea at 1 a.m. And you told me you didn't drink alcohol because you can't drink alcohol and do stand-up.
Who said that?
Wow,
John Robbins.
Wow.
I don't know what I meant.
It certainly feels like one of the more unsuccessful mission statements.
I didn't drink for the first year and a half that I did stand up.
Yeah, when you were doing the deadpan stuff about Harry Potter and sex and road traffic
Scrabble,
accidents. Yeah. Good stuff.
What
which
was
I
your
remember.
what was your sort of first routine then? If you've got it there, what are the topics you were tackling?
It's stylistically very different. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the Earth will continue to spin on its axis if John does his first routine.
Who are
Do you
your
want me to find it?
Who are your influences? Who are you into?
Woody Allen. It was essentially
No.
So I got not compared. I got someone saying that I was very similar stylistically to Stuart Lee. I'd never seen Stuart Lee stand up. I'd watched like Fist of Fun and Tumumranja.
But you had seen Stuart Lee?
No, well, yeah, but I'd never seen his stand up.
Sure, but you'd seen him, and you see him doing comedy.
All right. Hang on, here we go.
Never even heard of the guy. Just watched all his series on telly. Pretty tenuous link between me and him, isn't it?
Lee, that's a first name, it's not a surname.
Lee Stewart sounds like a name, all right.
Yes.
Okay, so this would have been my set on 2 weeks after I started doing stand up. I'm just getting it up now.
How are you getting this?
It's all on my computer, mate. My entire computer is like a library of my own mind.
Yeah, it's an archive of John Robbins.
I throw nothing away, but I've also got nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never thrown anything away, but if I try and find anything, even something from yesterday, I've got no idea where anything is.
Yeah, I'm like you. I never delete anything, but I wouldn't be able to find it.
No.
Do you want to hear my opening line?
Yeah, go on then.
I remember coming up with this joke in the staff room at Borders on my coffee break.
While watching Stuart Lee.
Okay, here we go. It's my opening line. A routine of Sunday, the 20th of March, 2005. I've been a bit depressed this Easter. I'm still single and thought it'd be a good idea to put a personals ad in the Sun. That didn't work. You can't look directly at it.
Wow.
Oh, baby.
And that got you to the semi. Imagine that.
But did you
To
like
get
it,
to the
though?
semi, you just have to say your name properly on the form and get onto the stage and then leave without sort of hurting anyone or falling over.
John, I'm
Yeah.
going to rattle through 3 very quick questions from the audience specifically aimed at you, and then we're going to play a game together.
Cool.
Ideally, if
Are we
that's
going to
all
hear
right.
more testimonies later?
We've done most of the big testimonies. The tutors were the headliners.
What about
What about
Trav?
Trav?
And Dave?
Okay.
And Vin?
Oh yeah, we'll get a couple of those guys as well. But very quickly, we've got to have a quick nod to the Q&A.
Of course.
What are John's opinions on the Tony Handley version of "Somebody to Love" with Gary Barlow? Tony Hadley.
Not heard it.
Not heard it.
Sorry.
Brian May's duet with Gary Barlow.
Loved it. I think Brian May, initially, when the lockdown started, he was you could sense he was struggling and was quite fragile and world weary. But then he discovered that he could sort of film himself and play along next to himself. And then he realized that he could play with other people. And I just think he's been incredibly sweet and really just has nailed it in terms of his vibe. And I love that he's always wearing shorts when he plays his guitar.
Oh, that's lovely, John.
Can I just say how wonderful that was that when you asked that question, all of us, but especially Elis, just immediately sat back from our microphones.
I look
Like checking his phone. He was like, "We're here for at least 3 minutes."
It's because Daniel Kitson is bringing some bread round at 10, and I've just WhatsApped him to tell him that I'm not going to be ready because I thought that this gig was going to be over.
I bet that is going to be some critically acclaimed bread.
It's good stuff.
I think 10 is a good aiming point. I think, but I mean, I don't know. There are no.
What were the other? There was another question, wasn't there?
It was then everyone's opinion on comedy online during lockdown.
Well, let's not base it on tonight's.
And then someone else has said, ask John if anything was missing after he lost his laptop and the nice Swedish man returned it.
No, just lost the laptop. Swedish
Brilliant.
man
It's
returned
important that we crack through a few of these, and I think we've done that now. Trav said, sometimes as a radio producer, you can find yourself producing a show your heart isn't fully in. Sometimes.
Yeah, he's done that.
Then he fucked off to Kiss.
I don't think Travis foresaw this testimonial being interrupted.
Sorry, Wookie.
Matthew. But it's not ideal, admittedly. Elis and John was never just a job. It was a genuine dream come true. They were able to make me laugh, cry, then laugh again, all within one link. The actual mechanics of radio weren't always their strong suit, but they connected with the listener. And this is a real tough blow to two-fifths of this chat, like no one I've ever heard.
Got to ask Ivo.
Yes.
Does he mention movie blunders?
He doesn't, but he does mention your ability to put a mango into your mouth a second before the mics went live.
Unreal.
He finishes with the beautiful line, "It was an honour to be a small part of something special. I started as a fan, and I'm so happy to be a fan once again."
Oh my God.
Nice.
But is it better to be a small part of something special or a bigger part of something more average?
I nearly drowned in my own bath listening to your podcast the other day, the Crunch and Crumble one.
Fell asleep?
Can't remember. No. You can drown in some water. A cup of coffee. I can't remember the line, but it was very, very funny. And also the episode where Matthew said that sentence that sort of fell apart as it was sort of falling through the air.
Matthew knows the sentence off by heart now.
I've got it written down. I can find it. Yeah, that I can find. It was a week after Cleo was born, and I just wasn't. I shouldn't have been back on the air. I should have been in quarantine. I should have been in lockdown. It was. That's how confident we are as DJs. I mean, great start already. That's how confident we are as DJs. We're not afraid to reference other DJs and for not people to all of a sudden want to listen to them.
But a sentence raced through so as to make it even less.
Yeah.
It was just wonderful.
I think it was, I went, and then I said, not people. And then I thought, well, the wheels have come off here. So I've just got to get to the end and hope Ed won't point it out. And of course he did, because that is, I would say 95% of our, of what we do on the radio is saying a word slightly wrong and then picking each other up on it. I think that's pretty much
accuracy.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
trying to spin that into a link and then into Razorlight.
I would say one of your great strengths over Elis and I is you are very giving to each other, whereas there was a lot more sort of bulleting in the early days of me and Elis, especially on Radio X when I used to get angry. Your classic ball in the air merchants It's something to behold. It really is, and it's a rare skill.
I mean, why would you get angry? It's just a radio show. There's no reason to get angry.
Well,
Right?
I'm not very,
Well, you tried trying to pull Brian May's height out of your ass week one.
Oh, okay, yeah. That is the problem.
You've got to remember, I'm not very good in the morning, and John is always hungover, so there is going to be tension.
Yeah, there's always tension, sure.
Yeah.
The quizzes we do on the air don't matter at all. We fundamentally don't. We did a quiz about Bergerac today, and neither of us could remember watching an episode. So it's not like, we don't. It's
Isle of Wight.
If we get
Jersey.
a question, Jersey, you're gonna hate yourself
Nettles.
tomorrow.
Oh
It's John
my
Nettles, exactly. Yeah, we got that bit.
Nettles.
Question 3, a limp leather jacket.
All I'll tell you
A
is
blue
that
song,
there
like
was
Krista Bergwes.
Yeah.
there was an episode called "Hello, my name is Sergeant Bergerac."
Have you ever heard the cover of the Bergerac theme tune done by noise artist VVM?
No.
It's great fun. He did sort of deranged covers of famous songs.
We've got
a quick quiz now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
can I go for a wee?
No,
Oh,
come on, John.
Jesus,
Hold it
John.
in. I've prepared a graph.
Ivo,
Just
can
the
I
end
do
of the
before,
tip.
I've had
before
4
you go
pints, mate.
into a quiz? How are we feeling about just thinking about the vibe of the audience tuning in? Are they looking for a sort of 4-way quiz, or are they looking very much for Elis v. John? And
Have
we
you got
say
plans,
we've
Ed?
been lovely. No, I'm
Also,
honestly
I
just
think the
thinking
audience
about.
might want to take a wee break and not feel like they're missing something.
That's true, but
I think they've done that already.
The bathroom is there.
I understand.
I can be back in 90 seconds.
Well, let's have a lovely break then.
Oh, we should say at this juncture, shout out to Tom Searle and everyone
Yep.
at Show and Tell, a fantastic comedy promoter who we all gig for putting this on, and also creating an awful lot of the sort of interface software, which, though initially problematic, I'm hoping has really cut its mustard.
Yes.
And also to Standing Together Against Domestic Violence, to whom £1 of every single ticket sold is going to them. And they're a very small charity that do really, really important work in the community. They also lobby the government for changes to how domestic violence is reported and dealt with, and people are educated about it. And thank you so much for giving your money to them. And I'm going to do some more. We're going to do some more stuff with them in the future, no doubt. Continue.
I thought that was beautifully done, especially given the amount of Guinnesses that are literally visibly open on the table in front of you. It's amazing that more appeals aren't done from behind a table full of mostly stout. But John, that was very important and sincerely and classily expressed.
John, it really looks like the saddest pub in the world where you.
No, it looks like
it
the
looks like the
saddest
sort-
house. It doesn't look like
But
a
it-
pub.
No, but it looks like
sad
the sort of
house.
pub where you walk in and go, "This is not for me."
Oh, I think it looks like the pub you walk in and go, a Queen pub.
Do you know what
how
it
did
looks
I not hear about the Queen pub? It wasn't on any of the forums.
If I went to a Queen pub and it consisted of one flag, I would leave immediately.
Do you know what
Well,
it looks
it's
like?
not anywhere near my Queen shelf.
Do you know what it looks like? It looks
It's
like
a makeshift Queen zone.
an early meeting for Richie and Eddie's flat in Bottom, and the producer's just gone, "That's great. Just yellow everything up a little bit, some nicotine, and then we can work with that." Actually,
That's all I want. That's a success. That's a win. Anyway, carry on.
Right, I'm going to switch to screen sharing, and I'm going to put a graph up on my screen. Now, the game is, and there's going to be a couple of these, one related to John and one related to Elis. What is the graph of? I will then reveal it. So let's just go to share screen.
Please don't be our radar figures. Some
No,
of them
it's
are.
not.
Oh, this is good.
Yes,
Randoms, songs. Nanette versus Darkness.
No,
Not
John.
entirely keen on that.
Well, steady on, John.
What is that? So is this me or Elis?
It's you, John. You've inadvertently given it away.
Okay, we'll cut that out in the edited version. Well, I still don't know what that means.
It's Darkness of Robin versus Net for emotional intensity over time.
Hang on. So when the Darkness of Robins went up on Netflix,
They're both available on Netflix, so you can construct your own graphs at home.
I couldn't watch it, but then last night I watched the last 10 minutes to check that they used the edit I had been in. The emotional intensity ramps up at the end.
It does, John, and then you do, and then you puncture the intensity perfectly, which is why the drop in intensity.
True.
Whereas the Net leaves on a very intense point.
Yeah.
Come in very intense, immediate, devastating personal news,
and who's to say which is the more effective comedically?
And also,
who is to say? And I certainly wouldn't go into those waters on this sort of event. But I thought you'd enjoy seeing the graph. It feels like
Ivo, is the bottom line Elis's last show?
No,
he says no to the escargot for an hour.
Oh, shut up.
I've got Elis's graph here. It's Elis James stand up on S4C. How much I understood against time.
You've done pretty well there.
So, Elis, this is for the first 10 minutes of the show. So I watched it on iPlayer. It's available on iPlayer, and I watched it without
subtitles.
Without subtitles.
Right.
So,
as nature intended.
At the beginning, I think you're talking about, you keep saying gigs.
Right, okay.
And you mention the Edinburgh Fringe and YouTube. And the bit ends with someone sitting with their arms crossed.
Oh, yeah.
So what I gauged from that, and this is the high point of my understanding possibly of the entire show, was that it was someone who was very excited about the show being on YouTube, but then sat with his arms crossed the entire time.
No, it's not quite that. It's I did a Welsh language show at the Edinburgh Festival, and there's a certain kind of Welsh speaker who will support anything Welsh, as in Welsh language, any kind of Welsh language content. So they nabbed me on the way to the gig and said, we're coming to your show. And I said, oh, brilliant. They said, we always support the Welsh comic. And I said, oh, that's great. And then they went on to say, yeah, we'd never heard of you. We've watched a few bits and bobs on YouTube. Absolutely hated it. It's not really our sense of humour, but we always like to support the Welsh person. And then they were there front row just like that for the whole thing.
I not only admire your commitment to the Welsh language, I envy it in a sense, because imagine someone coming up to you and saying, I support everything in the English language. Well, I check out every single thing that's ever been in the English language.
It's more like
the last person to have read everything published in English died about 600 years ago.
It's more like I always support the person from Thornbury. So if there was someone representing Team GB in Taekwondo and they were from Thornbury, you get into Taekwondo. If there's someone doing stand-up, you go and watch their stand-up. It's more like that really than an ability to consume all culture, because obviously that's not possible. But
Elis, you have some of the oddest examples of things I've ever heard. to reach for Thornbury and Taekwondo with that is quite astonishing.
Can I just very quickly ask Elis about the understanding low point, which is where you're doing quite a lot of shouting in Welsh, and then suddenly you mention Phil Collins is in the air tonight.
Oh, yeah.
What's the context for that?
The context for that is...
Please let it be that he stole that drum fill from Frank Zappa.
No, it
and has admitted it. He has yet avoided prison.
I can't quite remember. It was... Oh, yeah, that was it. It was how... If you have a specific kind of North Walian accent, it's very, very difficult to sound romantic and tender. And so I was imagining it was an act out of someone from that town, Caernarfon in particular, in Northwest Wales, and they're at their wedding, and then they're describing the first dance to me, and it's to Phil Collins is in the air tonight. But the joke is how abrasive the accent is when they're talking to me. So that's what that routine is.
I'm very glad. And then you kick into some lovely stuff about your daughter sounding like Danny Dyer, which I pretty much entirely understood. I'm going to stop the screen share. I've enjoyed getting the graphs out, but it is finite as an entertainment option.
Elis, I saw your. Which Edinburgh show did you end on a song? You ended on the don't touch what you can't afford.
Oh no, that was the midway point. I actually ended on. My school did a production of Grease, but for copyright reasons, it had to be called The Gang of 59.
Right.
And it was set in Carmarthen rather than America.
And you had a smoke machine.
I did have a smoke machine, and the smoke machine kept going wrong. So what would happen is that I would fill the porta cabin with smoke, then the show after me would go up late because it was like sort of London before the Clean Air Act of 1951.
Because I went and saw you because we were working on Stand Up for the Week in the run up to this, and you were saying like, I've not got a show, and then you did one gig at, I think, Outside the Box, and you said, I've got one joke, and it's about the bloke on the Quaker Oats box. And I was like, right, I've got to see this show because it's July. He's saying he's got nothing. The show's definitely happening. So I was up at the Fringe. I went to see the show, but it was a very funny show all the way through. The Quaker Oats joke was very good, but I think the best bit was the smoke machine. Clearly, what you were singing this song, and you kept going back to sort of kick. Like you kicked it.
You had to stand on it.
You had to stand on it, and it wasn't pumping out any smoke. So you're sort of singing this song, and you kept going back behind a curtain and like stamping, and then coming back and singing a bit more of the song until eventually you just started calling the smoke machine the C word.
Yeah,
and it was a fantastic. If that had been like planned, it would have been one of the greatest endings to a show ever.
It was like, instead of having a smoke machine, have a student smoke a rollie behind a curtain. I mean, in terms of the effect it created. And then one show in every 10, it would pump out more smoke than Pink Floyd when they were playing Pompeii. So it was actually quite
puff flash bang.
Absolutely. So it was quite difficult to. Every time as I'd walked to the venue, I'd think, what's the smoke situation going to be like tonight? So it was either hugely disappointing or too much.
It's like sort of gigging. It's like being in a double act, but one of you is just constantly hungover.
Yeah.
Or in like a sketch trio.
Should we let Crunch and Crumble go? Because I'm aware that we've taken up nearly half an hour of their time now.
Well, it was nice chatting to you guys.
Only contracted for 5 minutes.
Lovely to be here.
Thank you so much for coming on, guys.
Really fun.
Thanks for having us.
And we must do something similar in the future.
Yes.
Very much so.
I would love that.
Bit of a wink to Cam there. Bit of a mashup.
I didn't catch the wink, but I suspect I wasn't meant to. Lovely to see you, boys.
Thanks, pals.
See you
later.
See you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Right, boys. Let's have some Q&A fun.
Are people still watching?
People are very much still watching. A couple of people have said that they don't want it to ever end, but
unsustainable.
It's amazing how yes, exactly.
Actually, that would be sustainable.
You'd have to sleep. There's 3,500 people watching.
That means 700 people have tuned out.
Tech issues, John. Tech issues.
John, did you ever go to the Trout in Oxford? Is it still there?
Yes, and yes.
It's yes and yes from me too, actually, if I may get in on that. Elis, what are your top 3 favourite movie blunders?
Well,
how you couldn't have come prepared for that is a mystery to me.
The problem is, I've now done so many blunders. You're asking me to choose. I mean, the show is about 3 hours long.
I think it's more a game of, can you name any blunder from memory?
If I didn't know how much he got paid for that, I would absolutely rinse him to death. But part of me is so jealous.
A very vulgar insight, that. And we'll move swiftly on to Beth West 92, who said, can Elis please sing Auf Wiedersehen Pet, the theme tune?
Oh, we could. I mean, I could call up the lyrics. And I
Are they not in your mind?
I mean, the majority of them are, but I think that would work better if I knew them off by heart. And walking on the side from morning to night, that's a living alright, that's living alright. And a crank with the boys in a baffle of noise, that's living alright, that's living alright. Working all day for a pack and spend it all on Saturday nights. And they kiss the dames, but they don't ask the names. That's living all right. I mean, it's quite a long song. So that
For me, would you do a bit of it as Marquis Smith?
Well, that'd be more like that. Kiss the dames, but I don't ask their names. That's a Marquis Smith.
Superb, specific.
Yeah, too niche.
I
mean,
like
Alistair McGowan wouldn't do
John, have you done your latest tax return?
I got a letter from HMRC today saying, make sure you do your tax return ahead of time. I was like, guys, you're 2 weeks late. But then, just to be fair, because I use accounting software and I keep that accounting software up to date, it's never more than sort of 2 weeks before I've sort of entered everything. My tax return, I just press a button and it's done.
Don't credit the software, John. You are the software.
I am, in a way, the software.
Yeah.
But no, if you are self-employed and you're watching this, and I'm just going to direct this straight down the barrel, I cannot recommend accounting software enough. I use Xero. I'm not being paid by Xero. I didn't get the adverts for Xero. I wasn't even asked to audition for the adverts for Xero. They went to, I believe, Sanjeev Bhaskar. But it makes your accounting so easy. It's insanely easy. And it's fun to play around with. If I've ever got a couple of hours free, I might just dive in, look at some of the stats.
We've had a text in saying, I actually couldn't watch this all night. But it is good to know which software is optimal. Very quickly, John, another question, and this one is, what was your first ever joke aged 7 about 3 knots? And that one's in from your mother.
No, it's not.
It is.
No, it isn't.
Yes, I've got in touch with her through your fiancé.
That joke is family folklore. So the joke should be a piece of string walks into a bar and they say no strings allowed. And then so he goes back and he ties a knot in himself and goes back to the bar and they say, I'm afraid there's no strings allowed, mate. And he goes, and then he's still got the knot and he sort of pulls all of the string at the top apart and he goes back and they say, you're a piece of string, aren't you? And he says, no, I'm afraid not. And that's the joke. As a 7-year-old, I was so enraptured by this joke that was the best joke I'd ever heard. In my eagerness to tell it to my mum and my sister, who probably had told it to me, I couldn't get the punchline right. So I got to the final reveal of I'm afraid not. And I said, I'm a knot, I'm afraid. No, sorry, I'm a knot that's frayed itself. And my mum and my sister were sort of in fits of laughter, and I didn't quite know why. Early laughter, interesting topick.
Well, I'm sorry to drag that up, John.
No, it's great.
I took my role as archivist extremely seriously. Should we have a couple more questions coming in on the Q&A?
Yeah.
So I'm aware it looks like I'm just texting away through this, but I'm having the stuff filtered to me through the producer. Although, why has he sent me a screen grab of saying, would quite like it to end at some point, quite looking forward to a cheese toasty?
Well, they're €4, mate.
Well, that you'd have to hope that that's what's being referenced.
Yeah.
Ellis James, what are your top 3 away grounds to visit? This should be an open and shut case.
Millwall, Elland Road, Leeds, and Cardiff City Stadium as long as you win.
Aren't they? They're like for you and for most footballers, the 3 most aggressive unpleasant grounds.
He
It's
loves
great.
it, though. He
It's
thrives. in it.
absolutely great because it's the adrenaline, John.
You could
Walking the line. Poison. I still really love the City Ground, actually, with Nottingham Forest. I went there loads of times, and that was good fun.
Can the boys sing the theme tune to Made Up Games?
What, the
So all I've got is the theme tune to Made Up Games. They haven't specified.
Well, it used to be Queen, but then we had to change that when we went to
Queen.
Yeah. But it used to be my made up game has just begun.
Played it with my
family and
friends. My game is.
I've got that.
Really good.
I've got that.
No, hang on.
my...
Let's do it from memory.
Hang on. I've got the music on my screen, John.
Yeah.
I've got the music on my desktop because of when we did it.
Without the lyrics?
Yeah. Queen Play the Game without the lyrics, if you want me to play that.
It'll play in your headphones.
Oh, yes, it would. Yeah. I mean, I could take my headphones off. Oh, I don't want to start messing with tech. I mean,
Put your headphones next to the mic.
My game is really,
isn't that going to cause
really
extreme
good.
feedback?
No.
Okay. Here we go. Sorry.
Oh, actually, no, we can hear it. We can hear it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Obviously, there's that classic sort of, here it comes. Can you hear that?
No, this is just play the game.
Isn't that what we want, isn't it?
But how far do we have to wait?
Ages.
I'd say we were nearly word perfect on it without the accompaniment.
Oh, right. I thought we could do it with accompaniment and then we'd sound like pop stars.
Rules, it's so easy. All you have to do is play the game, made of games. Everybody play the games. I think we did an extended version for the tour.
Yeah.
Okay, we could do it from here. Oh, not yet.
No. Let him get out of his system.
No, it's still this is just the instrumental version of Play the Game, which I could listen to forever.
Yeah. Well, do you want me to turn it off? I feel like I've messed up.
My made-up game has just begun. Played it with my family and friends. My game, Darren changed the rules.
No, you're out.
Come. Made-up games, made-up games,
That's
made-up games.
way out of sync with the music to the extent.
No,
that
I'm not doing it to your music. I'm just vibing it.
Right. Okay. Well, then I'm going to turn it off. Sorry. I've atmosphere's gone now.
I think that was a very solid rendition of one of your two made-up games themed here.
Oh, thank you, Ivo.
I say, it's not a compliment. I threw myself into it.
Atmosphere's gone, actually. Atmosphere's gone.
Someone asked, did you have any features which ended prematurely in your opinion?
Teenage Fan Club, which I thought was
Teenage
great, and we did it twice because no one was interested. But that's fine. That has to be listener-led.
Can
And
you
if the
remember
listeners-
your first ever sacred cow?
Pardon?
That's from me. Can you remember
Yes.
who your first ever sacred cow was?
Bruce Springsteen.
That was your second, was sending Springsteen to the abattoir. Your first was sending the Sex Pistols to the paddock.
Oh.
Well, I don't stand by that decision. I texted Elis my 5 least favourite bands today.
Yeah.
And I can remember from memory, they were Stereophonics, Manic Street Preachers, The Clash, Sex Pistols, and what was the 5th one?
You gave a special supplementary
Special mentions
shout-out.
to
Stereophonics.
Madness, Stereophonics, Manic Street Preachers,
Oh, The Who.
Clash, The Who,
And you also don't
Sex
like,
Pistols.
and you also don't like Madness,
Madness,
Pearl
UB40,
Jam, and
and
UB40.
Pearl Jam. I stand by that.
Oh God! I mean, we can't get into this. We've been texting about this all day. Let's not have an argument online.
Someone's texted saying, Paul Bowden discuss. That's for me and Elis. Swindon legend, Wales legend. Much more to say than that?
What I have to say is he missed the penalty when Wales could have qualified for USA 94. The thing I find so difficult to take is that he'd never missed a penalty for Wales. He'd always scored penalty. He was a very reliable penalty taker. The Wales Romania game was on the Wednesday night. He then scored a penalty for Swindon on the Saturday, which just is rubbing salt in the wounds, I think. But never mind. I'm
That's
over
the
it now.
lottery of penalties, isn't it?
Yeah. It's 27 years ago. It's fine.
More recently, he had a very complicated relationship with Paolo Di Canio during his reign at Swindon Town.
Right, okay.
Is there an argument now we're talking about Paul Bowden for maybe winding down, or have you got another feature?
No, I think I've done most of the testimonials I was keen to get through.
What did Vin say?
Vin, of course, Vin was very complimentary. He owes you guys a great deal.
No, he doesn't. We owe him an enormous debt.
a great deal. It's nothing to do
Well,
with
it's a mutual debt then. Congratulations to all.
We'll just cancel it out like Live 8.
Yeah. We're going to get Ricky Gervais on to do his dance, and it's not
No
going to work.
thanks.
Why don't we finish with a lovely tribute from Vin, which tees up a final thing from both of you before we bid people farewell and thank them for their patience at the start.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, thank you so much.
All the way
I'm
through.
sorry if this has just been completely awful.
I don't think
Yeah,
it's at all.
sorry.
I get that. In anything I do, I get that sort of moment. But I think I've really enjoyed this.
Well, from my perspective, brackets interloper, it's been a pleasure to be a part of.
You're not an interloper. You've been the main loper of this whole affair.
You're the biggest loper out there.
I've sent some emails and...
You contacted Vincent Gillespie, something I've been too afraid to do for 20 years, and I will cherish that email, and I will cherish meeting up with him.
You should do it. Yeah, you should get in contact with him properly.
Will do.
You know?
Can you forward me his
absolutely.
email address, please?
And well, of course I will. And you're very welcome to my graph of the respective emotional intensity of the two winners of the 2017 Edinburgh Comedy Award. It's all good stuff. Producer Vin, formerly intern Vin, said, the beauty of Elis and John was their yin and yang partnership. One supremely organised and one with a lost wallet. One arriving just on time and one inexplicably early. They found common ground in broadcasting honestly, connecting with their listeners, insulting the playlist, and never knowing what was coming up next. The only show I've worked on that asked listeners to guess what the presenters ate for breakfast. So, if I may finish, John, what did you have for breakfast this morning?
Oh, mate. I had mustard and ketchup on toast.
Sounds absolutely delightful.
And a cup of black tea.
My God.
Ellis?
I had a cup of black coffee, Weetabix with honey, then I had some toast and marmalade, and then I had some olives because I saw them in the fridge.
I mean, both are sort of, mine's slightly bleaker. But that said...
And I don't want to give the impression of someone who's trying to sort of rush this through because it's been a delight, but I'm glad we're not kicking off a feature where people have to guess either of those.
Yeah.
Because it would be an eternity. Thank you very much, guys. Depending on the length of the lockdown, it'd be a pleasure to do something similar to it at a later date.
Absolutely,
definitely, yeah.
I've hugely enjoyed this, and I would like to thank everyone for watching, and very huge apologies about the issues at the start. My theory is that the demand was so high, it just took a while for the extra file of the audio to get through the pipe that is broadband / hosting / the internet.
Well, Tom, who was hosting this, the promoter, who is Show and Tell, he'd had to buy a load of extra bandwidth, and there were 4,000 people had bought tickets. So, there was a big. I mean, I don't work in IT, but I think that
you don't, do you?
No, although I do. I look like I do.
Yeah. But thank you everyone for downloading, and also just to remind you that £1 from every ticket goes to Standing Together Against Domestic Violence, and please do follow them on Twitter at @STAgainstDV to keep abreast of their phenomenal work. And you can also donate further funds if you have them at your disposal on their website, standingtogether.org.uk.
Thanks, boys.
Thank you so much, and thank you, everyone. And we will be back with something similar, but hopefully less problematic soon. And we love you all, and wherever you are, and whatever situation you're in, we do hope that you are keeping your chin up in spite of factors.
Yes. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, that's all. That's oh, hang on. Barry Glendenning. There's no sound, mate. Oh fucking hell. Hang on.
I'm more than happy to just sit here and drink cans and vape.
How does that look?
It looks good, man.
Yeah, that's
it's
good.
stuff.
That's good.
You need to keep it there.
Okay. Oh dear, we're too popular. We're too popular. Some people are calling the show avant-garde. Unfortunately, now there's just reverb. And sure, if you're aware, thanks and appreciate all the efforts. In fairness, looks like the lads are having a laugh. Now a mad stuttering synth noise.
Yes, I think.
Hello, mate. I think the problem is that it's not.
Hang on.
So are you hearing us on your stream? So where are you up to on the stream? Yeah? Guys, can you guys keep talking?
Yes, of course.
Is it working now?
We'll provide as much
How about
audio.
now?
Okay. Guys, can you keep talking?
Yes.
Yeah.
My name's Ivo Graham.
Yeah, we can do. I'm God, I've got so many fucking
An
messages.
evening with Elis and John.
Right.
Oh,
So
Robin.
it's working now.
Robin,
Ivo, do you want to go again?
It's working now, is it?
Yeah.
Well, that's
Right.
absolutely terrific news.
Okay, hang on. What's Jess? Producer Jess saying it's working. Should we do like at Mirth Control gigs?
Yeah.
Well, right, great stuff. And that won't be the last reference to Mirth Control this evening. Pop yourselves out of shot. So it's just me now. Right, yep. So, ladies and gents, my name is Ivo Graham. I am the third wheel of this very work-in-progress video conference. It's an honour to be hosting it. However, when it goes awry, as I think we can all agree, it feels like I've been invited in to take some of the flack for something that isn't really... Anyway, let's not pass the buck. The point is I'm the host. And for a long time, I did an opening monologue which nobody could hear, and the tweets started to turn sour. However, this is now audible. Elis and John, you've already seen them. You know they're just out of shot. John's literally started his Guinness. So without any further ado, please welcome, in whatever way you have the patience to do in your own homes, Elis and John.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, John. Hello, Elis.
Hey.
Hello, Ivo. Hello, Elis. Hello, viewers and fingers crossed listeners. Apologies for those techno problems.
I have never, oh dear. It's according to Simon Price, it's gone all BBC Radiophonic Workshop again.
No.
Duncan Weldon, who I don't know, said it worked for a second, but now it's white noise.
But how...
Briefly had sound from Hannah Madgwick.
I'm aware that smiling and laughing on an inaudible video is not good PR when people are this frustrated.
Yeah.
It's the laughter of our own frustration. Right, horrible noise is back. Work for 10 seconds.
Woody Woodpecker, people are saying. Matthew Crosby saying work for 10 seconds, now it's mad again.
Because we might have to, if this doesn't get sorted out, we might have to knock it on the head.
I prepared my graphs.
Is there anyone you can speak to? What's the company that's doing the...
Is it too late to go back to Riverside FM?
Yeah.
So where are you? Where is your stream up to?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
We need to keep talking so that people know.
Yes,
that it's
sorry,
working.
I'm
It's not
just getting
working.
so many texts and tweets. Do you know, I'm gonna
But
check.
are you on airplane mode?
I am. I'm gonna check it on my computer. I've been on airplane for about 3 or 4 minutes now.
Right.
Tom, is there any chance it could be that it's being watched and in Ivo's house?
I think that's nigh on impossible.
Is there a closed door between you and
There
the...
is.
I think the sound issue could be on Ivo's mic input out to the show and tell platform. When the sound has been on, it's gone into reverb every time Ivo has spoken.
Right. So should I take my mic? Shall I? I've got my sound settings on.
People are saying it sounds like rave music.
Right. Well,
How on earth are we creating rave music by mistake?
I think it's working now.
Right.
Okay.
Do you know what?
So let's keep carry offline as a precaution.
Yeah.
Keep your headphones out as a precaution.
Let's do everything in our power to maintain whatever this.
We are trending.
No.
Fuck.
Well, I've got fuck all to do, so I can be here till 1 a.m.
Yes, but I suspect that's not going to be the opinion of the viewers. I suspect they'd absolutely love it somewhere in the remit of 8 to 9 p.m.
Anne is bringing around some bread at 10. And also,
having a roast at 9:45.
And also, the person who lives next door has promised not to play salsa music, but only until 10 p.m. So we'd be competing with salsa
right
from 10 on.
I believe that we may have some
Guys.
audio now.
Yeah,
Guys, I can confirm it's definitely working now.
Okay, it's
definitely working now.
It's definitely working now,
35
guys.
minutes.
Tom, how many remaining viewers are there?
Don't tell me.
Yeah.
4,223.
Well, that's absolutely terrific news, but obviously you don't have any data for their mood, although quite a lot of it's coming through on the old tweet.
Working.
Yeah, we're
DJ
getting full barrels of data on their mood currently.
Okay.
DJ Femidom, Timmy Turnips, is saying that it's working. Well, if it's working,
I
for
can
Timmy
confirm
Turnips,
it is indeed working.
Right.
Okay, so we now need to stop talking to Tom, who the other people don't know exists, and perhaps begin to seek into the planned show after whatever problem Ivo was causing.
No,
Yes.
I don't think passing the buck onto the temporary host of the show is going to be...
Mate, I'm going to pass you so many bucks, you're going to be the king of Sweden.
Right, yes, check your messages, says Ed Gamble.
it's working, says Phoebe.
Okay, I think we need to stop that line of that thread. And
Sorry,
begin.
I'm just so excited that it's working, John. I was thinking of doing this until about 9 p.m. Quick quiz, done by 10 past.
So let's not redo the walk-on in case that has played some part
Yeah.
in. But Ivo, over to you, and welcome everyone